Even in death, I still serve. Salutations Rangers, General Bradley 101 back at you today with some more lore. And in today's videos, boys and gals, we're taking a look at the Dreadnought.
I will endure 1,000 deaths before I yield.
I present to you a walking murder coffin that's basically a tank on two legs. Hell yeah. So, today we're taking a look at the Dreadnought. Now, what is a Dreadnought? A Dreadnought, quite simply put, is a type of combat mech of the smaller variety that is utilized by the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines. Basically, when a really good soldier of the Space Marines kicks the bucket, or is about to kick the bucket and gets mortally wounded, they throw him in a Dreadnought. Basically, he sacrifices his physical body, but is still able to fight. The Dreadnought keeps him alive, and he's still able to perform his combat duties. And now this is considered an honor by the Loyalist Space Marines, and considered a punishment by the Chaotic Space Marines. We'll get to that in a minute. So, yeah.
Dreadnought.
Now, the Dreadnought is one of the most iconic pieces of equipment in all of 40k. The only other thing I think could rival it are perhaps Titans or the Land Raider. Because just look at it. It's so iconic. It's a box with legs and guns. It's literally what it is. It's fondly referred to as the community as the Boxnaught. However, its official designation is known as the Castraferrum, or the Iron Fortress, and is known as the Mark V pattern Dreadnought. So, in this video, we're going to be going over a quick overview of Dreadnoughts and what they are and what they do, a little bit of their history, and then we'll be going over all the different types of Dreadnoughts. So, let us start. Dreadnoughts were first created way back when during the Dark Age of technology, as was all things by humanity. What is the Dark Age of technology? Basically, the way that goes, we have the current timeline, the year 2000, and then we have about, say, another 18,000 years, in which case humanity conquers the entirety of the galaxy and basically becomes a super race. You know, like, bruh, we had AI-powered artificial planets that could eat suns. That's how bonkers batshit crazy we were. But then two things happen. One, all the AI turns against us.
Beep boop, fuck the flesh people.
And then that sun-eating planet decided to eat our suns, and we had to put them down. Not today, Satan! And then, you know, Slanesh happened, and warp storms caused tears everywhere, and humanity was split in individual planets, and soon quickly fell. That brought an end to the Age of Technology, and brought what was known as the Age of Strife, which is a several thousand years of people killing each other until the Emperor shows up and starts the Great Crusade. That's about in the year 30,000. So everything goes to shite around 20,000, we have a few thousand years of badness, we come to the Emperor reuniting everything around the 32nd millennium, give or take. So Dreadnoughts have been around for a long time, and what's interesting, how a Dreadnought was supposed to function is that you take a mortally deceased soldier, you stick him in a sarcophagus, and he's able to move and function. And the old school Dark Age tech ones were way just like mentally crazy. You had some that were literally battle mechs, but then you had others that were essentially, you know, Second Life basically. We don't really know much because, well, GW hasn't really covered that much, so this is all just hearsay, so take this with a grain of salt. But yeah, shit was crazy. But nowadays with technology where it is, what happens is that it starts getting a bit much for the pilot inside the Dreadnought. And in some cases what will end up happening is that they can't maintain a 24/7, so they have to be put off to sleep and be roused either for combat or if they need advice. Because remember, these are hundreds if not thousands of years old combat veterans. You're going to want to hear what they have to say. However, in the worst case scenario, it can actually end up burning out the pilot. So the pilot may serve for a few hundred years, but eventually they will die just because, you know, piloting a machine with a broken body is a bit much, even for a Space Marine. But Dreadnoughts are a nice midway between the Terminator armor and the main battle tank. They pack way more firepower than a Terminator. Like I said, they pack the firepower of a tank, but they have the ability to go into places where you can't normally get a tank, like a street fight. You would love a Dreadnought in a street fight because they can turn far easier, and they can walk over debris and rubble, and unlike a tank, well, some tanks, a Dreadnought has melee abilities. They got fists, or in some cases, swords. So it offers a great deal of flexibility. Not only that, but as I said, it is a veteran of several hundreds of thousands of years. So having a Dreadnought on your side, not only do you have a basically walking tank, you have a combat veteran who knows more than you could ever hope to, and you have an instant raising of morale, not just to, you know, Astartes troops, but regular infantry, because some of them will know what a Space Marine is. There's no Venerable Space Marine like, oh my god. Not to mention, they look sick as all hell. Like, my god, look at that. So So now we're going to be going over the individual types. So first we have the Mark 4 Dreadnought and the Mark 5 Dreadnought. Now, what happened to Marks 1, 2, and 3? Nope, God only knows. So we start with the Mark 5 Dreadnought, which is the basic dreadnought known as the Castraferrum, the Iron Fortress. This is your standard issue box knot. It's the one you see on the art everywhere. When you think of dreadnought, you think of this bad boy. Now, it is clad in heavy adamantium and plasteel armor and is incredibly durable to anything besides heavy anti-tank fire. To mention, it has punchy bits. So, it can be armed with the following: twin-linked autocannons, heavy las cannons, also twin-linked, heavy bolters, an individual assault cannon, a multi-melter, a plasma cannon, a missile launcher, and then we also have the Dreadnought close quarter combat weapon, which is either a claw, a lightning claw, could be an axe, could be a sword, could be a shield, depends on the type of dreadnought. And then for secondary weapons, they have a Dew Storm Bottle or Heavy Flamer combo. Depends on what you want. Next up, we have what is known as the Mark IV Dreadnought or the Venerable Dreadnought. Now, this is essentially the Castraferrum, a little bit more upgraded in terms of visual features. You see it got a helmet and whatnot, but the main difference is that a Venerable Dreadnought has been around for a while. Like, this is an old fella. This is an old god. This is a veteran's veteran. You know what I mean? So the difference is not necessarily from the different type of dreadnought. Rather, it's just the chap who's in said dreadnought. We then have what is known as a Siege Dreadnought. Now, a Siege Dreadnought is essentially a Castraferrum, except it has siege drills or siege claws attached to it. Now, as the name suggests, it's designed to breach through siege walls. Also, flamethrowers, because fuck infantry. We then have what is known as the Ironclad Dreadnought. Now, the Ironclad Dreadnought is special because it's said to be made by your boy, Vulcan. And it's interesting because it is a Castraferrum, except much more heavily armored. Like, the front armor especially is significantly heavily armored, hence why it's called the Ironclad. Also, it's great because Vulcan made it. God, I love you, Vulcan. Now, you see, what's interesting about the Ironclad Dread is that it is a close quarters combat dreadnought. Because of its two armaments, it's both melee. One is a dreadnought close quarters combat weapon, commonly a power fist, chain fist, claw, whatever. Could be anything though. But its second weapon, which is exclusive to Ironclad variant, is what is known as a seismic hammer. Now, what is a seismic hammer? Simple. It's a giant fuck-off fist, and is said to, and I quote, unlike the siege drill, which drills through opponents and fortifications, the seismic hammer quite literally uses seismic vibrations and immense force to pound the enemy into dust. It's like, bang! Dead. God, I love Vulcan. Just, such a good Primarch. Also, it can be equipped with two hull-mounted hunter-killer missiles for long-range support because the Ironclad, like I said, doesn't have any long-range weapons. It trades those long-range weapons and delicate systems, so it can just have a metric fuckload of armor. Or it can also be included with two banks of 6 Ironclad assault launchers, which are a hybrid grenade missile launcher type thing. We then come what is known to the Hellfire Dreadnought. Now, the Hellfire Dreadnought is a variant of the Space Marine Dreadnought and is designed for long-range fire support. Now, normally, a dreadnought will have a ranged weapon or a melee weapon, like we said before. This, not though. It has two main range weapons. So it could be a twin heavy bolter, or it could be a twin plasma cannon as well with the missile launcher. It's a support weapon, plain and simple. We then come to the newest dreadnought, which is the Primaris Redemptor Dreadnought. Now, the Primaris Redemptor Dreadnought is kinda infamous because out of all the dreadnoughts, it burns through the pilots like most quickly. Like, Primaris have been running around for a few hundred years, like 200 or 300 years, but man, this thing has gone through a number of pilots, like, woof. Crikey. However, it is uber powerful. Like, blimey, this thing hits like a mother. It is armed with a onslaught heavy Gatling cannon or a macro plasma incinerator. Also, it has a Redemptor fist, which is a giant ass fist, and that can be equipped with a heavy flamer or an onslaught Gatling cannon. It is also equipped with 2 frag storm grenade launchers or storm bolters, as well as a rocket pod for air defense. The fuck is the what? For air defense. So goes through a lot of pilots, but man, this thing is tanky and hits like a mother. We then have the Chaplin Dreadnought. Now the Chaplin Dreadnought is essentially if a Space Marine Chaplain, which is essentially a Space Marine priest, if he kicks the bucket, he gets put in a Chaplin Dreadnought. He can still preach and shit, but now he preaches from a coffin, which is metal as fuck. Like, oh my god, that's so cool. Like, just think about it. Like, man is out here in a coffin, belching sermons while crushing heretics. Man, 40k is stupid, but goddamn is it cool. We then have the Librarian Dreadnought. Same thing like the Chaplain. A Librarian is a Space Marine Psyker, Space Marine Magician. If he keels over and has decided that it's worthy to be in a Dreadnought, he gets put in a Librarian Dreadnought and is able to use magical psychic nonsense through a coffin. Again, metal as all hell, but goddamn is it cool. Fun fact, the Blood Angels make a large number of psychic enhanced Librarian Dreadnoughts. Blood Angels like their psychers. We then have the Contemptor pattern Dreadnought, which is a more advanced version of the Space Marine Dreadnought. You can see here it looks a little more humanoid, does not just look like a box on legs. Similar armaments to that, better armored, better armed, and this is interesting because it actually has a force field. It has a shield, so it makes it even more durable. Also, any Dreadnought that is not based on the Mark IV chassis has access to the following weapons. Number 1, Volkite Culverins. Heat Ray Gun. It shoots heat rays. Second, Graviton Blast Cannon. It shoots a gravitic beam that crushes its target. And finally, the Conversion Beamer. This essentially shoots an array of antimatter projectiles. Yeah, antimatter ray gun. Then we have the Derodeo pattern. Now the Derodeo pattern is a special type of dreadnought for it's designed for heavy support duties. This is the long range heavy duty support person, and it could be armed with an Anvilus autocannon battery, a Hellfire plasma cannon, a heavy las cannon battery, a Volkite Falconet, as well as carapace mounted Aelios missile launcher, and then you also get a pair of heavy flamers or heavy bolters in the chest. And it also has Boreas anti-air defense missiles, and it's also equipped with a very advanced targeting system known as a Hellak targeting array, as well as antimagnetic shielding. It, like the Contemptor, has a force field. Then we come to the Leviathan Siege Dreadnought. Now this is a big boy. This is a chunky lad right here. Let me tell you what, it is the biggest of all the dreadnoughts, and as you can say, it is a Leviathan designed for siege. This thing is the tankiest of all the dreadnoughts, the biggest, it has the best shields, it has the best guns and armor. Like, look at this chungus! Look at him! Goddamn boy, so thick you need 4 C's to spell his name. Good Lord have mercy. And the Derodeo and the Leviathan, as well as the Contemptor, are significantly more rare than the Castraferrum and Venerable Dreadnought. Like, these are really rare. Like, it would be hard pressed to find them outside of the second and first founding. So they're equipped with a Leviathan Storm Cannon, or Glafrex Bombard, or Cyclonic Melter Lance, or Leviathan Siege Claw, or Leviathan Siege Drill. It can also incorporate a melter gun on the claw and the drill, because fuck tanks. It also has heavy flamers or twin Vulcanite Cavaliers in its chest. It can also take up to 3 hunter-killer missiles or a Phosphex bomb discharger. What is Phosphex? Quite simple. So you know phosphorus and how you have phosphorus grenades and phosphorus munitions? Imagine that, but worse, because 40k. Finally, it would also have frag grenade launchers and smoke grenade launchers, because, you know, let's give it grenades, because it certainly needs more. But this lad is chunky. Oh my god, he's beautiful. Look at him. Now, there are specific types that are exclusive to chapters. Now, we won't be going over the heresy stuff, because in the heresy, each legion had its own unique different type of dreadnought. Mostly usually just cosmetic changes or, you know, armament type changes in some way, shape or form. Now, you did have the 1000 Suns, which was special in that it was basically a Librarian Dreadnought, because every 1000 Suns Psyker, it was put in a Dreadnought. Makes sense. But we have the Grey Knight's Dreadnought, which is again clad with psi ammunition and has cut seals of warding and whatnot, and has a Grey Knight in it, which is also a Librarian type Dreadnought, because every Grey Knight is a Psyker. You have the Wulfen Dreadnought. Now the Wulfen Dreadnought is unique amongst the Space Wolves in that the Space Wolves basically have Wulfen, which are werewolves, Space Wolves that go feral, and then sometimes they die and stick them in this, because reasons. Space Wolves don't always make sense. You have the Death Company Dreadnought, which belong to the Blood Angels and their successors. Again, sometimes a Blood Angel goes crazy with the Black Rage and believes that they are their Primarch, who is constantly dying at the hand of Horus. Yes, that Horus. And they decide to stick him in a murder coffin, because why not? And what's unique about this, as well as the Wulfen, they're exclusively armed with melee weapons.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
So you have a werewolf or a bloodthirsty vampire armed with 2 close-quarter combat weapons in a giant coffin on legs with plate armor charging at you. Yeah, 40k. Shit's fucked. You have the Mortis Dreadnought, which is interesting in that it is armed with a pair of 2 missile launchers or twin-link heavy cannons or autocannons or las cannons. And what's interesting about this one is that it has the helical targeting array, so it's actually better. You have the Furiso Dreadnought, which is a purely melee variant of the standard Dreadnought. Then we come to the Custodes. Now the Custodes have what are known as they have the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought, which is essentially a Custodes Contemptor, literally just Contemptor in gold, but then you also have the Contemptor Achilles and the Contemptor Galatus, which are basically better versions of the Contemptor. The Achilles is armed with a giant spear, twin Lastrum Storm Bolters, and a las cannon at the end of said spear. Then you have the Contemptor Galatus, which is also armed with a pair of Lastrum Storm Bolters, giant shield, which is Storm Shield by the way, Dreadnought size, as well as a giant power sword with flamethrowers at the hilt because fuck infantry. Then we have the Telamon Heavy Dreadnought. Now, the Telamon Heavy Dreadnought is the Adeptus Custodes version of the Leviathan Siege Dreadnought. And holy lord of God, take a look at that chunky fella. Oh my god. Yo, you thought Leviathan was chunky. Nah, brother. This boy out here thick with 5 C's. God damn. Look at the thickness. Look at that. He mixing with the thickness right there, big boy. Oh my god. Praise be the glory God Emperor. If you couldn't tell, I'm a very big fan of stompy robots. Now, to say that the Custodes ones are rare is like saying diamonds are expensive. Shit's pretty rare. And the Telamon Heavy Dreadnought is armed with the Acarus Storm Cannons, the Illuster Accelerator Culvins, or a Telamon Cestus Power Fist with built-in plasma projectors, flamethrower, but plasma. In addition, it sports a back-mounted Spicuous Bolt Launcher and has a shield. By the way, all the Custodes have shields, because of course they do. The Bolt Launcher, essentially fancy missile launcher, plain and simple. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the basic Space Marine Dreadnoughts. Greetings! Future Bradley here. So, I pulled the GW and forgot the Chaos existed. Sorry, Chaos fans, but you know, you guys should be used to it by now. Anywho, Chaos Dreadnought. So, you might be thinking, Chaos must have a whole bunch of different fancy versions of corrupted Dreadnoughts. Yes and no. You see, there's only one type of Chaos Dreadnought, but it is very much corrupted and can be corrupted in various different forms, and that is what is known as a Hellbrute. So, TLDR time, you have a Chaos Dreadnought, regular Dreadnought, like the Loyalist kind. However, human beings, regardless of how buff and roided up they may be on gene augment enhancing rubbish, they were never designed for space hell, let alone for space hells. So, when you stick them in the warp, the bodies get a little fucked up. Just a little bit. So what happens is, unless you are able to control the warp or handle the denizens of the warp very well, much like the Thousand Suns and the Iron Warriors, Thousand Suns being masters of psychic shenanigans and able to keep said mutations at bay, and Iron Warriors, well, Iron within, Iron without, those bastards can survive anything. Your Dreadnought could end up mutating into something known as a Hellbrute. So, 2 things happen. 1, you get flesh on the Dreadnought. Metal turns to flesh or creates new flesh or spawns out of reality, because who knows? Flesh. Secondly, the pilot goes bat shit crazy, stupid insane. Like, this guy is off his rocker. Properly off his rocker. Like, he is gone. Like, there is nothing there. They literally become akin to feral beasts. And, you know, having, you know, giant stompy murder coffin go crazy, sprout chaos mutations, seems a little bad for one's health. And yeah, it's pretty bad, because what can happen is one of 2 things. 1, the coffin will fuse to the Dreadnought and it literally becomes, like I said, basically an animal. Or you can remove the coffin, but this motherfucker is so goddamn crazy fuck off mad that his psychic residue of madness and anger and rage stays in the Dreadnought. So there are literal accounts of pilots being removed from the coffin and they have 0 sensory power. You can't hear, you can't see, you can't feel. You are just screaming, raging, bumping up and down. It's like that one scene from Night at the Museum. Hang on, how many of you remember Night at the Museum? When did Night at the Museum come out? Good God, this is illegal. How old are people? How old am I? Oh my God, I'm ancient. Anywho, there are accounts of Chaos Warbands having to literally chain their Dreadnoughts because they go crazy and start killing everything. Chaos Dreadnoughts, Hellbrutes, look very cool, but ugh. You know, people always think I joke when I say 40k is crazy because, you know, the Imperium, which is The Imperium is the good guys, but they're not good because they're good. They're good because they're the least bad. Salamanders are the good guys though, and I will not have anyone in my comment section tweeting me otherwise. I am a Salamanders fan. This is a Salamander channel. We love Vulcan, and that is the end of that. Anywho, as for armaments, they are armed with everything that the Loyalists have. They have every variant that the Loyalists have, except for the Custodes Dreadnought and the Grey Knights variant, because, well, heresy bad. Also, tentacles. Right, now we're just gonna go over 3 of the most notable characters. So, first thing first, we have the oldest chap, Bjorn the Fell-Handed. And Bjorn the Fell-Handed is the oldest Space Marine. He is part of the Space Wolves, and he is so old that he was there during the burning of Prospero. Yeah, he's like over 12,000 years old at this point. Motherfucker is old. And fun fact, he gets woken up only like once every few hundred or thousand years, just to tell the Space Wolves how great everything was and about Russ. Basically, they gather around for story time every couple of centuries and wake up Uncle Bjorn. It's fucking amazing, I love it. And then we have Murderfang the Cursedborn. See, I don't hate the Space Wolves. I love the Space Wolves in terms of like modern 40k. I think Lehman Russ fucked up a little bit with Magnus during the whole thing. Like, I'm not a Magnus simp. Magnus did plenty of things wrong, but yeah, little downside there, Lehman. Yeah, but shit like Murderfang that just makes you question why the Space Wolves are a chapter. So basically, the Space Wolves were under attack, right? And all of a sudden, by orcs I believe, all of a sudden this machine burst through the mountainside and just starts killing things. So the Space Wolves saw it and were like, you know what? It's a murderous rampaging thing that just wants to kill and destroy everything. Let's take it home. And what's funny is that in their official report they said what seemed like a dreadnought. What seemed like a dreadnought. Which means this motherfucker did something that made them question if it was a dreadnought. And they gave it the name Murderfang the Cursedborn and decided to take it home. I don't know, Space Wolves, how am I supposed to defend you here? Like, what the fuck?
What do I do, Lord?
And then finally we have my favorite, my most wonderful, my most beautiful, God I love him, Dreadnought, Bray'arth Ashmantle, the oldest and most venerable Dreadnought of the Salamanders. And he is clad in the Iron Dragon, which is the first ever Ironclad Dreadnought made by Vulcan himself, and is supremely better than any other Ironclad, and it's so great. Look at him. Look at him. God, he's amazing. Ah, I love him. Yes. And you were asking, hey, Brad, do you like it just because it's the first ever thing created by Vulcan and it's super cool and awesome, but also because it's Salamander? Yes. Now, I know I may get someone asking, where's Rylanor? Rylanor will be getting his own episode. Okay, this is supposed to be a short video, and I'm not going to throw Rylanor in here. He will get his own short video. Probably, you know what, I'll do Rylanor when I do the Emperor's Children. I'll release the videos at the same time. There. But ladies and gentlemen, that has been Dreadnoughts. Yeah, so comment down below. Let me know which is your favorite Dreadnought down below. Let me know what other vehicle types you want me to cover, or just say hi. I'll always reply to comments. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and do all that wonderful YouTube stuff. But thank you oh so very much for watching. I have been General Bradley 101. You have been beautiful, awesome, and amazing people. Stay strong out there, boys and gals, and I will catch y'all next time. Dismiss, Rangers. Brother, get the check, Marine. I have the sniffles.